Down 2, Know Your Role. Plus, we have a preview for Sonic Adventure 2. Stick around, it's game time!
Hello and welcome to our show from GameWorks on the Las Vegas Strip. I'm Kate Patella.
And I'm Adam Sessler, and we're here during the 2001 Consumer Electronics Show.
Now, of course, the real reason we're here is for the big buzz from Microsoft.
Yes, Bill Gates revealed more about the Xbox, and we got a chance to spend some quality time with it.
Today, for the first time, we're unveiling the Xbox.
Bill Gates gave the keynote address at this year's Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. He chose this stage to give the world its first glimpse at the next big console to blast on the scene, Xbox. Microsoft's first gaming console and the first American console since the Atari Jaguar. Gates went on to reveal more of what we can expect when the console ships in the fall.
If you want to play a game with this thing, you simply push the eject button here, stick the disc in, and boom, within 8 seconds, you're up and running in that game. We have a hard disk, and so the information about the game will already be stored. You don't have to load it off the disk or load it as you move from level to level. What you're seeing on the front, 4 game ports. That was one of the big pieces of feedback, was people didn't want to be limited to 2. We support HD TV. We've also got an Ethernet connector at the back. This thing is a broadband gaming device.
Gates isn't the only one excited about his new system. The computing muscle of Xbox has created a flurry of anticipation from the gaming community.
The Xbox looks like it's going to be the next big thing. It looks like it's going to be the hot toy for 2001.
It's not like a learning curve where they're staggering around trying to get into this business. They're coming in, boom, and trying to hit everyone really hard.
The design of the console evolved by talking with gamers and developers about what they desire in a gaming unit. Even the controller evolved over time, reflecting Microsoft's top-secret research.
As an adult with big hands, you can hold it farther back and it's really comfortable and cool. But in fact, if your hands are smaller, you'll see people naturally just move their hands up and around, and it fits them all.
The controller features 2 analog sticks, a D-pad, 6 buttons grouped together on the right side, 2 triggers, and 2 memory card slots. But a controller doesn't mean much without a decent game to play.
It's designed to enable the game artists, the creators, to make their visions come true.
Microsoft showed off 2 impressive games still in development for the console. One was the latest version of Munch's Odyssey from Oddworld Inhabitants. The game's designers recently pulled the game from the PlayStation 2 because of the difficulty of developing for the Sony console. Clearly, the game's come a long way since we last saw it.
In Munch's Odyssey, they intend for you never to see a load screen. And that's entirely doable on an Xbox, right? Because you can be constantly streaming up that DVD.
Microsoft also gave a first look at Malice, the new game from Argonaut. The demo that Microsoft showed displayed objects that cast shadows that moved and folded in real time. The anti-aliasing capability of the Xbox was well demonstrated in this footage. Developers are obviously finding it possible to create impressive new games for this console.
One thing that I'm seeing with the Xbox, it's going to have a pretty negative effect on the PC business. On the PC, people can really mess around with their computer and change it in any way they like, and that makes the game suddenly incompatible to a lot of games, and that becomes a big problem for developers. With the Xbox, you can't do that. You just, unless you get your screwdriver out, you can't mess with your Xbox. And so for developers, that makes our lives a lot easier.
It's also possible that the ease of developing for the Microsoft system will affect the future of the PlayStation 2 or the upcoming Nintendo GameCube. If more developers jump ship seeking easier, more familiar tools, the other consoles may have a problem.
Microsoft will be laying some serious hurt on Sony. And I'm a Sony fan, but the machine has just got all the components that the PlayStation 2 is missing to be a true next generation online playable console.
In any case, if Microsoft can deliver on their promises, we should see the landscape of gaming altered by a factor of X.
For your own look into our Xbox files, come on out to our website.
There you can see even more of that incredible looking game footage of both Munch's Odyssey and Malice.
And now, the game news.
Microsoft's Xbox could be the first machine of its type not to feature territorial lockouts, which means that consumers with an American Xbox could play Japanese and European games. Game publishers could put lockouts in, but at least Microsoft is allowing that decision to be made by the people who make the games and not the console designers. Blizzard learned recently that Diablo 2 players were mysteriously losing characters, items, skill points, and experience. Some people found out that if you try to log in about 50 or 60 times with the name of an existing character, about 1% of the time the Battle.net server would grant them access. As a result, Blizzard has revived all hardcore characters who died between December 19th and January 1st. Shoichiro Irimajiri is leaving Sega before the end of the month. The ex-president resigned from his position and became vice chairman after taking the blame for poor Dreamcast sales. Irimajiri then became company advisor and is now leaving the company altogether. The New York Times recently reported that Nintendo was in buyout negotiations with Sega. The report claimed that Nintendo was interested in buying Sega in its entirety for an approximate amount of $2 billion. Since the report originally ran, both Nintendo and Sega officials were quick to flatly deny the buyout rumors. Coming up on GameSpot TV, we tip off our reviews with NBA 2K1. And we rock the ring in our review of WWF Smackdown 2 Know Your Role.
You know, I've always wanted to be a firefighter. This way I can actually rescue people when I'm playing a game instead of killing them.
And I've always wanted to stop, drop, and roll.
Well, you know, football season is almost over, but don't worry, we can still celebrate with NFL 2K1, which is one of the greatest sports games ever.
And basketball season is now upon us, and it looks like Sega has another winner to go along with it.
Last year's NBA 2K for the Dreamcast was fun, but it also was hampered by AI problems. Now comes the sophomore release by Visual Concepts and Sega Sports. Though there are still some kinks to work out, we are dealing with a dynamic and addictive basketball game. The 3D visuals are quite solid. The player models are fairly realistic, if a little exaggerated. The ball is a nice bumpy orange, and the coaches look like their real-life counterparts. The well-lit arenas are all faithfully done, complete with shiny wood courts and individually rendered fans. What would an NBA game be without trash talking? It would be like a sandwich without the bread. In addition to players calling each other out on the court, there's a good amount of yelling from the sidelines, too. The defensive AI can be troublesome in spots, like stealing the ball. Why try to steal the ball if it ends up being called a foul 80% of the time? And don't try juking your defender if you're winning late in the game. It doesn't matter if you're a superstar being guarded by a second-string rookie. You'll lose the ball every time. You can get deep with season and franchise modes, or take it loose to the streets. This is also the first basketball console game to be online compatible, so you can hone your skills in your living room and then take it to the internet court. Between the graphics, fluid gameplay, new animation, and dunks, NBA 2K1 is simply a joy to play. Fix a little crooked computer AI, beef up the stats a touch, and maybe next year's version will be perfect. This year's is pretty close. Overall, we give NBA 2K1 a 4 out of 5.
You know, basketball games are among the hardest to translate into video game form, although they've done a really good job with NBA 2K1. As far as wrestling goes, most wrestling games are kind of fair to middling in translating the happy hysteria that is pro wrestling. Last year, there was WWF Smackdown. This year, there's Smackdown 2.
So, is this on? The newest game in the WWF franchise is WWF Smackdown 2, Know Your Role for the PlayStation. This game will take you as deep into the WWF as you want to go. There are dozens of modes to bring you into the game. Of course, you can always just throw Mankind and The Undertaker into a steel cage and watch the sparks fly. The graphics in Smackdown 2, Know Your Role aren't awe-inspiring. The wrestlers are heavily pixelated but mostly recognizable. And all your favorites are included.
If you smell what the Rock is cooking.
The sound design is so-so, but the bright spot happens as the wrestlers make their way to the ring.
Treat me for just
You're limited to a control scheme of punch, grab, and kick, with the D-pad adding a variety of special moves. It works, but isn't particularly intuitive. The true creativity of the game comes into play when you make your own wrestler. You can choose from hundreds of options, from looks to allies. Though the game has options galore, they have little to do with gameplay. What keeps the playability level up is the large stable of wrestlers and arenas. If you're sick of one-on-one on the standard mat, try Tag Team, a Royal Rumble, or a backstage battle with couches. When it comes down to it, though, you're still just wrestling. It's a pro wrestling sim, and just like its real-life counterpart, the hype often overshadows the actual competition. Overall, we give Smackdown 2 a 3 out of 5.
For you wrestling game fans that might be worried that Microsoft won't have any titles for the Xbox, take heart. THQ just announced WWF Raw is War. Now, Unreal Tournament is a pretty dark, hardcore game, but here are a few cheats for the PS2 version that'll help lighten the mood.
There's nothing like friendly fire to get the blood flowing in Unreal Tournament on the PS2. To add more spice to your game, we have a code that'll unlock a mutator option called Fat Boy in the multiplayer mode.
Congratulations, you are the winner.
To unlock it, at the title screen, enter circle, 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 up, down, down, up, circle, circle, circle. Go to multiplayer mode, choose mutator, there you can select Fat Boy. Every time you frag someone, you get fatter. But if you're the one who gets fragged, you get skinnier.
Coming up on GameSpot TV, we explore the vast realms of Phantasy Star Online, blaze with the Blue Hedgehog in Sonic Adventure 2, and capture the checkered flag in Gran Turismo 3.
Welcome back to our show at GameWorks on the Las Vegas Strip.
Phantasy Star was a huge hit for Sega when it came out. It was also a very expensive game for them to make, and many people found out it was very expensive to buy as well.
Well, now the Sonic team is working on Phantasy Star Online, which is not only a continuation of the legacy, but also the first massively multiplayer game for the console.
Six years. Yup, that's how long it's been since gamers had a Phantasy Star title. Well, Phantasy Star is back, and not only do we get to see it next-gen style, but now it's online. Developed by Sonic Team, Phantasy Star Online is the first console-based multiplayer RPG, and this game is about as online as you can get. Phantasy Star allows you to assemble a four-person party from all parts of the globe. Communication with foreign players won't be a problem because Sega's Phantasy Star Online servers will have translation capabilities. That's right, what you type on your system will appear on each party member's screen in their own language. As for characters, you can create your own with practically limitless design options. You'll start off by selecting one of 9 character types, each distinguished by occupation and race. You'll then have numerous variables to choose from, including hairstyle, skin color, and even body proportions. As for the control scheme, a simple 4-button layout executes commands when in the midst of combat. You'll be able to initiate weak and strong attacks, use items, and conjure eye-popping magic spells. At the same time, you'll be able to chat with the rest of your party and implement new strategies in the middle of the battle. Phantasy Star Online also has an offline feature that uses the same environments as its online mode. Playing solo offline will not be as exciting, but will give you the chance to build up your stats and come back online pumped and ready to go. Get ready to say goodbye to the real world and hello to a world unlike anything you've ever seen when Phantasy Star Online hits the shelves in early February.
For those of you worried about how Phantasy Star Online might play online, outside tests of the games have found minimal performance problems. Now moving from one big Sega sequel to another, here's a look at the Little Blue Hedgehog's second outing on the Dreamcast.
Once again, it's time to clear the way for the world's most famous hedgehog. That's right, Sonic is back in his latest adventure, and this time, he don't break for nobody. Currently, not much is known of the plot of Sonic Adventure 2, but you can be sure that the evil Dr. Robotnik will be involved somehow, and will be up to no good, as usual. While the game mechanics from the previous Sonic Adventure remain intact, Part 2 will be more speed-oriented, rather than the obligatory walk-around exploration seen in other platformers, which is just as well. After all, he's named Sonic for a reason. You'll be expected to take Sonic up, around, and over just about everything in the game. You will have your loops, and you will get to charge down sides of buildings. Sonic Adventure 2 promises to have a load of surprises, including a new grinding ability and the return of the pole-swinging feature, a Sonic trademark not seen since his 16-bit days. By the looks of it, Yuji Naka and Sonic Team have pushed the Dreamcast hardware to its graphical limits. If Sonic wasn't so fast, you might actually be able to admire the scenery. Expect Sonic Adventure 2 to blaze on and off store shelves come this spring.
You know, it's always fun to play as the little blue hedgehog. Now, Gran Turismo is pretty much considered the big A-list car racing simulation. They tried to take that up a notch higher with Gran Turismo 2, but didn't really quite get there. Polyphony, the developer, is trying to do just that with Gran Turismo 3.
Get ready to rev up your controllers. Gran Turismo 3 for the PS2 will soon be out for your driving pleasure. Polyphony Digital's latest installment in the blockbuster series skids onto the PS2 in true 128-bit fashion. Like its two previous installments, Gran Turismo 3 will boast some of the most realistic driving mechanics ever seen on a console. Now more than ever, subtle driving elements such as torque and wheel spin become important factors in placing first. There will be graphic refinements as well. The car's models will convey a more convincing sense of depth, and environmental reflections will be seen off the cars in real time. One of Gran Turismo's trademarks is its wide selection of cars. Part 3 promises to have at least 150 car models up to the 2001 model year. Look out for Gran Turismo 3 sometime in the spring. Coming up on GameSpot TV, we look at the best game gear and have a cheat code that'll put you in the lead.
Welcome back to the show from GameWorks in Las Vegas.
Now, I remember when I was a kid, I used to get my Hot Wheel cars, and I set up the track and I raced them around to attempt to simulate the real thing.
Well then, how about a simulation of a simulation as Hot Wheels takes a new look at an old favorite? Slot car racing is a lot of fun, but in addition to squeaky triggers, these old analog toys have definitely got some of their own problems. So before you go up into the attic and dust off your old tracks, why don't you take a look at Mattel's Hot Wheels Slot Car Racing for your PC. Of course, the coolest thing about this game is the controllers. Look familiar? They look exactly like your old-fashioned slot car controllers, with the trigger in the front, but here in the back there's a button for switching lanes. Let's see how it works. The graphics are good and the backgrounds are very creative. There's lots of little details to look at, like the little electrical spark running under your car. You can race alone or with a friend, or even build your very own track. Mattel has also done a decent job of imitating these slot car sounds. The controller is also a lot of fun to use. But in the end, sometimes it's best to just stick with the old-fashioned way. Get 'em, Ray! Go! So on the childhood memory scale, we got slot car racing, air guitar. Now how about some rock'em sock'em robots?
To the wrecking yard, folks. Things are heating up. That's right. Excavator and stakeout are in prime form. Pounding it out tonight. Hello. Ooh, that'll leave a dent. Oh, that was one mean shot to the nuts and bolts. Waiting to Gearing up for the pitch. Oh! Excavator steamroll stakeout. Knocks him right on his can. Stakeout is back up. This is unbelievable. Stakeout is getting up. Oh! Unbelievable. Seems a little shaky, though. Oh, he doesn't look too happy. Ooh, you got that right. Stakeout is locking his radar on. Oh! It's gonna hurt.
Well, I guess that's just a chip off the old block. Now, a recent Star Wars game that just came out is Star Wars Demolition. And if you're playing the game and find yourself getting banged up too much, here's some cheats to help you out.
Are you having fun with vehicular combat in a galaxy far, far away? If you're not ready to come down to Earth from Star Wars Demolition, we have a code that will unlock more characters.
Choose your game.
At the main menu, select Options, then Preferences. Now press left and right. This will bring up the password screen. Enter Watto Shop. At the character select screen, you can now choose Lobot, who is Lando's assistant with computers stuck on his head from The Empire Strikes Back. Bosch, who is the bounty hunter Leia impersonates to free Han Solo at the start of Return of the Jedi. And finally, Darth Maul, who is the Sith apprentice with a passion for the dark side of the Force in The Phantom Menace.
You know, for some people, so long as it's Star Wars, it's a good thing.
Especially if you're LucasArts.
We'd like to thank GameWorks on the Las Vegas Strip for letting us come and play today.
And if you want to find out more about the Xbox, make sure you come to our website inside techtv.com.
Well, that about does it for this edition of the show. Until next time, Viva Las Vegas! Viva!
Boom.